Welcome and thank you for visiting my channel. Some people who play DCUO have asked me to share a video that showcases my characters in DC Universe Online. Without further ado, this is my main toon, Knotty Scotty. He's an Earth power set tank with a combat rating of about 290 and roughly 350 skill points. He's also my oldest and most invested toon. He has most of the DC collection feats and a solid chunk of the cosmetic feats unlocked. Also, for anyone who's played this game for about a month or so, they soon realize they can only really seriously commit to maybe 2 or 3 toons to reach top tier game content. The gear grind in DCUO is real, and most of those who play this game are only able to focus on 1 or 2 characters at most. I happen to have 20 toons in DCUO, and unfortunately most of these toons simply occupy digital cyberspace. Once in a while I'm able to mission grind on a few of them once per week. But onward with Knotty Scotty's character concept. In gameplay, Scotty is a pure tank. I have no intentions of game grinding on damage based gear for him. Instead I focus solely on his tank gear and increasing his tanking stats. I don't want to get into his stats since the numbers change quite often, but Scotty is able to solo run most of the tier 8 and 9 content. However, it takes a long time for him to solo run missions since he doesn't deliver metric tons of nuclear damage. His general feel and flow seems a tad bit slow and deliberate, yet powerful as compared to my other toons. Scotty can dive headfirst into a clusterfuck crowd of enemies and only take a small amount of damage. About the only enemies that pose a genuine threat are boss level characters that are 10 to 20 combat points over him. Scotty's gameplay is mostly focused on PvE content, however, at one point I did have a PvP rating of about 95. But I ended up crafting his PvP gear into supplies to fortify his augments. Concept-wise, Scotty is a character that I used to play on those really old school tabletop roleplay games, such as Marvel's roleplay game that used the phase rip system and old school D&D type games. Scotty is a magically animated stone golem with tremendous armor and strength. When using the Earth power set in various missions, the only power in his loadout tray that doesn't quite fit Scotty's original character concept is the giant stone hands that simply materialize around his targets, and they jerk a cluster of motherfuckers clear across the room. I will go into further details of Scotty's armory builds and his various cosmetic costumes in a later video. For now I'd like to showcase Red Sabbith, who's my first committed effort at a Red Rage tank. I've been able to play Sabbith to a combat rating of about 180 and gain roughly 330 skill points for him. Sabbith is a fairly old toon, at nearly 2 years old, but unfortunately I don't get to play him as often as I'd like to. Also, I'm not very fond of the Rage power set, even though it's revered as the quote-unquote most badass fucking power set in the entire game by most of those who play DCUO. This doesn't mean I completely dislike the Red Rage power set. But basically the Rage power set creates a regenerating tank who heals injuries very quickly, rather than resisting incoming damage with sheer armor resistance. In gameplay, Sabbith is also a pure tank, where I have no intentions of game grinding for his DPS gear or a damage-based loadout. Red Sabbith's general feel and flow in the game environment seems very agile and quick. However, he has to keep some distance between him and his enemies during combat. Sabbith's gameplay is also mostly PvE content, but, at one point I did have his PvP rating at about 55 to 60. Concept-wise, Red Sabbith is an incarnate class character, such as the Hellspawn from Image Comics or Ghost Rider from Marvel Comics. He's basically a demonic entity that has materialized onto the earthly coil to conduct guerrilla warfare on humanity in Hell's never-ending quest to gather human souls. Up next is Punkin Piper. When I found the pumpkin head costume piece offered in the DCUO Halloween event, I simply had to create this toon. Piper is my first attempt at a pure damage spec character, and at the time many were recommending the nature power set, which also works very well with Piper's whole possessed pumpkin and plant concept. I've been able to play this character to a combat rating of about 250, with roughly 300 skill points. I love this toon because she looks and plays so badass, especially while using the bow and arrow weapon set. It makes the character concept absolutely on point. However, being a nature toon, her damage output has been lackluster since the nature power set requires you to use one of the morphed animal forms to truly deliver high output damage on the leaderboard. And let's face it, if you're playing a DPS toon in DCUO, you better be scoring damage figures in the top 3 slots of the scoreboard, or else everyone in your raid is going to be pissy with you. In gameplay, Punkin Piper is meant to be a pure DPS, because I fucking hate playing a healer. It's not that the healer role is a bad role, it's a totally justified and required role for DCUO raids. But I simply hate playing a healer since they rely heavily on a good tank or a good DPS to pull them through missions and get shit done. I'm too much of a solo player to rely on others. Which is also why I typically play a tank. I created Punkin Piper around the time of DCUO's weapon mastery combo system. At that time Piper was actually a pretty good DPS tune, consistently scoring first and second place in damage output on the raid scorecard. Then DCUO went to the more simplified game system of using pure might or pure precision based damage, which I actually like better than the weapon mastery combo system. But unfortunately Punkin Piper's damage output is now generally poor because I don't want to run around as a massive fat gorilla or monotone colored werewolf that looks addicted to crack. Nonetheless, I still love this tune and play her about twice a week, and usually dedicate her to various seasonal events in DCUO. Now let's take a peek at one of my newer tunes, Maiden Medusa. At some point in DCUO, the game developers introduced quite a bit of Wonder Woman based content which uses a lot of Greek mythology monsters and ancient Roman god-like characters. Maiden Medusa is supposed to be an escaped Gorgon slave of Medusa, a horrid female creature that has the head, face, bust, and torso of a beautiful woman, but her legs and hips are formed into that of a large snake-like serpent. Medusa's hair is also a clustered wreath of deadly venomous snakes coiling about upon her head. For those who have never heard the story of Medusa, she and her two sisters were once beautiful young women in the city of Kistane, and one of the gods of Mount Olympus, Four Seas, descended upon the earth to get freaky and slobbery wet with Medusa and her sisters in a raunchy porno. Four Seas' wife, Ceto, witnessed his adultery and Ceto used her godlike power to transform Medusa and her sisters into hideous serpent-like monsters who can turn any creature they gaze upon into stone statues. Like the original Medusa, Maiden Medusa has the same penance stare that can turn her enemies into stone statues, but to a much lesser degree of potency. Since Maiden Medusa's penance stare is generally weak, she uses a magic mask and backpack that allows her to manipulate gravity, sand, rocks, and boulders into formidable weapons. Maiden Medusa is my Earth Power Set DPS tune, and even though I have not been able to commit very much time to her build and stats, this character is totally badass to play. As you can probably see, her combat rating is only 45. However, she does have about 150 skill points from various feats since she's easy to play and has a good rhythm and tempo, with pretty solid damage output. Currently I'm running her with a precision build and she does very well in low-level content. Onward to another character that seems to be deep in sadomasochism with a serious bondage fetish. Zenobite. This character is an obvious homage tune for anyone who grew up during the 80s and knew anything about the Hellraiser horror movie franchise, written by Clive Barker. Zenobite is a demonic Cenobite priest from a hellish netherworld dimension who gets summoned to our earthly realm through a puzzle box which opens a dark dimensional portal. Her sole mission on our plane of reality is to punish and torture any would-be person who opens the golden puzzle box known as the Lament configuration. In DCUO gameplay, I figured the most befitting power set would be the Celestial set paired with the Hand Blaster weapon set to emulate her casting demonic spells, which look like giant skulls and wavy dimensional energy beams flying from her hands and chest. But really she's only teasing you with her black leather gimp suit that exposes her voluptuous boobs. But, another token of using the Celestial power set is it's also a healing power set. Since her goal is to punish and torture her victims for eternity, Xeno would need to bring her victims back to life and nurse them back to health, only to punish them again and again. Like many of my characters in DCUO, poor Zenobite is a necromancer priest that I don't get to play very often. She's only at a combat rating of 100 with her skill points at a similar figure. When I do get an opportunity to play her, she handles sort of like an attack helicopter, hovering around slowly and launching magic missiles at her enemies. For now, I'm using a precision-based build to help maximize her damage output scores. If and when I get to focus on her gameplay more frequently, I'll simply go pure precision damage and not even bother with her healer role or healer loadout. Cause I fucking hate playing a healer. Now we get into my ultra hot pink celestial cosmic entity type of character, and if you've stayed on the channel this long and continued viewing thus far, I give you my gratitude for actually having an attention span that's longer than a hamster's fully erect cock. That's meant to be a compliment since most people can't stay focused on anything for longer than a few moments at a time. Then they unfortunately forget what they just seen. It's the same reason we have instant replays in televised sports events. Crap, I just missed that awesome play. God damn it, I need to see it again. But this is my character, Candy Crisis. She is my DCUO tune that emulates a celestial cosmic entity, such as a Herald of Galactus. Her body is comprised of solidified energy and she can throw massive Goku-like Kamehameha beams of quantum energy and shit like that. She can live and fly around in the never-ending vastness of deep interstellar space, at light speed velocity no less, cause everything in interstellar space is like 900 bozillion light years away from everything else. On top of it all, she is nearly immune to the extreme temperatures of interstellar space. In the game environment of DCUO, Candy Crisis is not all that powerful because I've not had the time to game grind missions for various gear to level up her stats. However, in a comic book or cartoon setting, Candy Crisis would be equivalent to characters such as Marvel Comics' Silver Surfer. Currently, Little Candy Crisis sits at a meager 170 combat rating with similar skill points to match. For lack of better words, she is meant to be a silly and comical character, much like a young teenage girl. Her character personality is meant to be one of naivety that's self-absorbed in trivial pursuits of vanity. This also includes activities like yapping too much over stupid shit, like fabricated fake drama, or playing around believing in shit like crystal castles, fluffy unicorns, cotton candy snowflakes, Prince Charming, and other dumb shit, like true love. Finally, we are nearing the halfway point of this video showcasing my lineup of DCUO characters. And if you haven't moved on to another video, I congratulate you and offer my gratitude again. However, I will not stoop so low as to ask you to subscribe and then hit the stupid thumbs up button and then click again on that dumbass shiny red bell icon for those dumbass notifications that will simply annoy you. Let's face it, if you're watching a YouTube video on DCUO, you're most likely scrubbing through videos in a crazy mad frantic search for the latest and greatest tutorial on how to squeeze a few more performance points out of your own tune. You'd be better off looking up an Obsidian Chill video, cause that DCUO guy really knows his shit and he deserves props. And a big bowl of popcorn. You are now officially past the point of safe return. This is my alien tune, and she's modeled after the xenomorph alien species that was created by H.R. Geiger for Ridley Scott's space horror movie franchise, Aliens. My Necro Xeno tune uses the mental power set combined with the hand blaster weapon set to complete the character concept. It only seemed proper since the xenomorph alien creature is usually portrayed in the movies with a slight degree of enhanced perception. Added to this, if the xenomorph alien species did manage to jump from one universe to another universe, what's stopping her from jumping into the Star Wars movie universe? The xenomorph creature could potentially learn rudimentary force abilities, becoming a savage of telekinesis. However, the xenomorph creature would probably not have the cognitive intelligence to become a Sith Master or a Jedi Knight. I happen to have a soft spot for the Alien movie franchise because the xenomorph is a totally kick-ass creature with all sorts of gruesome carnage. However, most would also tell me to get the fuck off of DCUO and play the official Alien vs Predator games. My response would be that the xenomorph creature has jumped universes in an effort to hunt down Wolverine and Deadpool. Once Wolverine and Deadpool are captured, her alien hive will then have a fail-safe contingency in place when the shit goes sideways and a fucking squad of jarheads raid her slimy black nest. The aliens' larval face huggers would jump from their eggs onto Wolverine's and Deadpool's faces and then directly commence to face fucking. A few hours later and a big funky dildo with shiny metal teeth will bust out of their chests. Wolverine and Deadpool heal up all healthy, only to get another spider-like face hugger straight skull fucking them in the mouth, and the circle of life repeats. Wait a moment. Some motherfuckers in the comments section are informing me that Wolverine and Deadpool are not, I repeat, not franchise characters of the DC universe. What the fuck? Did anyone know this shit beforehand? Oh well, who gives a shitty rat's ass at this point? It's time to earn some true nerd credit with my next tune, Pico Punkin. He is my second oldest tune after Spotty Shoddy. Wait a moment, that's Cotton Snotty. Wait, I meant to say Knotty Scotty. For anyone that is a true comic book superhero gaming nerd, you may recognize Pico as one of the many open world bosses from the ultra old school MMO game that was once known as City of Heroes. Holy fucking shit, that's a really old ass fucking MMO game. Only true nerds really know of the legendary online superhero game called City of Heroes, or COX for short, since you'd simply type the letter COX into your old ass AOL chatterbox to get rolling on a raid. The game City of Heroes was so damn nerdy that all of their financial investors pulled their funds and let the game server go belly up with no regard to the masses of gamer nerds who played that game and had invested literal years of their lives constantly mission grinding Statesman's task force in desperate hopes for a rare purple mod. Pico is modeled after the Iochi race in City of Heroes. During the month of Halloween, these giant tree-like monsters, with huge jack-o'-lantern heads, were released into the game environment in City of Heroes. During open world raids you'd need at least 20 to 30 people to team up and simply take down these massive pumpkin tree monsters. They would cast out huge AoE blasts of scorching hot hellfire and then summon hundreds of little Iochi guys that would run up and butt-fuck your hero in a matter of minutes. On top of it all, the Iochi monsters had very strong regeneration and healing abilities, cranking up their difficulty to level 11. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot, the Pumpkinhead concept was also utilized in an ultra B-rate horror flick of the same name, Pumpkinhead. He's a demonic creature that could be summoned by various witches to exact vengeance upon people who had done something atrociously wrong. Also, sometimes during Halloween a few people with good makeup and costume talents will dress up as a tall and lanky guy, with a fat jack-o'-lantern for a head. Since Pico is my second oldest toon, he also has pretty good stats and gear. And he can usually tank the top tier missions offered in DCUO, he even has stat figures that are well above Knotty Scotty's. However, those increased stat figures really don't make a damn difference since Pico is indeed a fire tank. A fire tank can be balls out as strong as the eternal flames of all hell's satanic damnation, but to maintain a consistent level of fire tanking ability, you would need to exclusively play your fire tank as your one and only single DCUO character. Now onto my wicked ass wizard, Kris Kruger. Some time ago when I had unlocked quite a bit of the costume parts and then suddenly the villain and hero styles became tradable. Yes, fucking awesome yes, I started to really fuck around with the styles and costume parts of my toons. After fiddling around with multiple toons in my roster, I ended up creating this sick ass straight up fucking wicked wizard, that throws magic spells, nasty thunderbolts, and other funky pink and purple magic shit. This toon style was interesting enough to keep me trying out the magic sorcery power set. And wouldn't you know it, I like the sorcery power set in the damage role, but you won't get me to play no damn healer role. Even though Kris is not very fleshed out and his stats and gear need metric tons of mission grinding, the sorcery power set seems to eat straight through enemies very quickly. However, Kris does have a big fat downside. When an enemy farts in his general direction, he will be only a few millimeters away from sudden death. Also, using the skemming travel power helps cap off his wizard playstyle and game feel. He plays very much like a feeble-ass old man that can suddenly one-shot drop a motherfucker with a deadly snake strike. But alas, I don't really get the time to truly focus on this wicked wizard. However, he is awesome as hell. Moving on, I can finally show off my 80s franchise action figure, Billy Riser, or Lance Beam if you got stuck with the second game controller, that also had the fucked up button mash on every third press. Most of the people who play DCUO are probably not even old enough to remember the Contra 8-bit game series, where you run like hell to duck and dodge bullets whizzing by your nuggets, then you manage to run and gun a motherfucker down as a badass acrobatic soldier through a gruelingly difficult labyrinth of death ray power beams, endless explosions, and those goddamn tiny 8-bit 4x4 pixel dots that were hard as hell to see. One measly hit, and boom, you're a fucking dead man, so get out your 2-button Nintendo controller and mash in the top secret code. Up up down down, left right A B start. Now you have 30 lives so you can maybe get your ass halfway through stage 2. No shit, the old school Contra game series is revered for its insanely difficult gameplay. DCUO is nowhere near Contra's difficulty level. Some punk ass 80s kids would get bloody blisters on their thumbs from playing these Contra games for too long and mashing their 2-button D-pad controller until it was bent and warped. As you have probably already guessed, this is my munitions and rifle power set toon. Much like the soldier character of the Contra game franchise, this guy jumps, flips, somersaults, rolls and tumbles all over the fucking place while simultaneously nailing perfect bullseye headshots while also radio calling in for an airstrike delivered by the A-10 Warthog. No doubt, this guy is hella fun to play in DCUO as the original OG super soldier. Finally, we are nearing the end of my list of toons. This is my female atomic tank, Diesel Queen. She's supposed to be a really tall, really hot, really skimpy dressed atomic blonde warrior woman, much like an Amazonian goddess, such as Wonder Woman, but blonde, and sorta ditzy and bubbly. I've managed to play and level up this toon to a combat rating of 200, with about 300 some odd skill points. However, it's an extremely sad time in our lives where grown-ass men go home from their jobs and play Cyber Barbie, to dress up little digital dolls. Wait, these aren't dolls, they are action figures. Well, I don't care anymore and I'll dress up a fucking digital doll if I want to, I've been through a lot of crazy shit in my life where relationships, endeavors, and situations go hella sideways, landing straight headfirst into a big pile of heaping fresh dog shit. So I don't really care that I'm dressing up a little digital doll to look like Barbie of the DC universe. Almost done. Anonymous Agent is of course, my gadgets guy, who is also a genetically enhanced clone, and he's extensively trained as an ultra high skill and ultra discreet super secret agent, or assassin for hire. It's pretty damn obvious he's a corporately engineered clone and a freaking 00 agent, who also happens to work for an ultra elite billion-dollar secret organization, such as the Illuminati. Come on bro man, as if this guy would actually be employed by a top secret billion-dollar agency such as MI6, or Interpol, or Metal Gear, or Shadow Lu, or Cobra, or the ICP, or Area 51, or SHIELD, or the CIA, or Skynet, or even the FBI. Maybe he even pulls jobs from the goddamn Pentagon when he dressed up like Agent Smith from the Matrix. Truth be known, he's a fucking double agent who's double dipping from LexCorp and Wayne Enterprises at the same fucking time, simply pulling any jobs from the dark web or any other top secret network he can get his grubby little hands on. Fucking hell, just 2 weeks ago he pulled a damn heist as a favor to Stark Industries.